The times are changing, and so is the world around you. At CVM University, we help you prepare for the future, like we have with more than 10 lakh students. Come, join the education legacy of 75 years. CVM University, enlightening the future generations.
Okay, welcome all participants on the second day of HTTP on automotive engine emissions and green fuel technology. So today again one more eminent speaker expert from the industry who is alumni of our ADIT, Mr. Dushyant Bhatt with us. For the introduction of the Dushyant Bhatt, I would like to call Mr. Professor Yagnesh Gambhwa, who was the batchmate of Mr. Dushyant Bhatt. So I would like to call Yagnesh Gambhwa for the introductory speech of Dushyant Bhatt, today's speaker.
So good afternoon to all. Myself, Professor Yagnesh Gamba, and as today, I am very happy to see Mr. Dushyant Bhatt. And if I introduce him, then it is my privilege to introduce the Mr. Dushyant Bhatt because uh, time where we have spent during the college, and it was really memorized. Uh, and today we see as a Dushyant as a speaker. And if I see his graduation, if I talk about the graduation of Mr. Dushyant Bhatt, then 2004 to 2008, he was studied in automobile engineering department, ADIT, and after his graduation, he has joined a master's in ARI. I correctly remember that after the masters, his projects also in good companies, and then after he has worked in automotive engine emissions and after treatment field since 10 years. He has also worked with the many automotive companies like Tata Motors, TVS, Hero Motocorp, BEML, and many more. Nowadays, currently he is working with the Mercedes-Benz. He has also worked with MET emissions control technology, the manufacturers of catalyzed, substrate, and electrically heated metal catalyst. And he has done so many projects also during his academic record as well as during the professional work whenever he has worked with the different companies. So welcome Mr. Dushyant Bhatt, and I would like to invite you on this short-term training program. So I would like to request Mr. Dushyant Bhatt to take the charge of this session and continue with the presentation. Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you, Yagnesh. Thank you, Kuldeep, for inviting. And it is my pleasure to be again with my alma mater. And I would not waste anybody's time. And let's start with our subject. And we can discuss. We will have some, around 20 minutes for discussions for question and answer. and I would take you through the topic of automotive and Indian emissions. So I'm just sharing my screen. If let me know if it is visible.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with the agenda. So in today's around 1.5 hours, I would give overview to introduction of exhaust emissions, then to catalytic converters, and then construction and manufacturing process of it. Then we'll go to a specific catalyst for gasoline, and after that we'll take some a little deep dive in diesel applications for catalyst, as well as we will see the latest trends in BS6 and Euro 6 cars overall. So I hope this agenda is similar things you have in mind. If not, just let me know. We can add a topic if I can at the last moment. So is everybody okay with the agenda, or should we change anything on this? Since you will be, bearing me for at least 1.5 hours, so now it's the time to talk. If you have anything else or any questions or any expectations other than this agenda, then yes.
Any specific agenda to tell before starting the session? If it is, if no, then we start the session. I think everybody is comfortable with the given list of content for the today's topic.
All right, then let's go ahead.
That's oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's start with the introduction to the exhaust emissions. So we see a car, and if we see the source of emission in the air, there are four sources normally. Number one is the evaporative emissions. So let's, if I give an example, evaporative emission, that if you put your car in sunlight, let's say a very harsh sunlight, at that time there is some fuel which is evaporating from the fuel tank as well as the fuel lines, and that is called evaporative emissions. Then there are refueling losses. So whenever you put fuel to your car, you may have seen some fumes coming out of your fuel tank, and that fume is nothing but the hydrocarbons which is converted into gaseous forms, and that is called refueling losses. And then when the vehicle is running, there is some loss through piston and piston rings, and that comes out as a crankcase losses. So that is one another source of emission from the car. But out of all four, the main source is exhaust emissions. So today we would be focusing on this basically. So, and we have seen there is no, let's say, need to elaborate. Everybody has seen the exhaust emission coming out of trucks, bus, cars, bikes, and so on. So if we talk about the content in the exhaust emissions, it's we can see this as a entire, let's say, space as a emission. So most of the part is nitrogen. Second biggest part is oxygen. Then third biggest is carbon dioxide, and fourth is water. And until here, these are all let's say, non-harmful gases to the human health, except CO2 is uh, responsible for the greenhouse uh, effects, but other than that, it is not significantly affecting human health because it is an inert gas. Now, but if we see, there are smaller amount of emissions which are coming, like carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, CO, NOx, then hydrocarbons and particulate matters. So these are the components which are the main, because we can say emission from the exhaust after treatment, which are considered, and this has to be controlled according to the government regulations. And how the government regulation come, we know, right? There has been n number of studies over the health of human, for whenever they breathe the exhaust gas through their lungs, there has been some detrimental effect. And we have seen, because of nitrogen dioxides or nitrogen oxides, we have seen in 1990s and 1980s and 1990s, not in India, but at least I remember in USA and Europe, there has been reports of acid rains where the rainwater is acidic, and whenever it is coming on the ground, it corrodes everything. And if you put your hand out of rain, and you will feel the burning. So that's the detrimental effect of NOx and so on. And hydrocarbons is the carcinogen, so it does accelerate the cancer cells. And then particulate matter is very bad for lungs, so it provokes asthma and other lungs related diseases. So this is the primary exhaust emission from an engine. So okay, we have seen, okay, there are emissions. Now it is our job, and I know at least it's especially my job in my company to take care of these emissions coming out of the exhaust, and to treat them, to reduce them as far as possible, and we get better suitable air for environment. So if we consider as 100% exhaust emissions, so we have seen it's 90%, 98% non-harmful gases like O2, H2O, CO2, and N2, and only 2% is out as a exhaust emission, which is harmful. And out of that, if we put a catalytic converter, so that we will discuss in detail in this lecture, uh, then out of this 2%, 1.92% again converted to same H2O, CO2, and N2, and then only about 0.08% CO, HC, and NOx are taken out. So let's say most of the part of catalytic is taken care by catalytic converter, and we are fortunate that we have seen very good government policies in last few years, which is taking care of reducing this emission further. So at maybe in maybe if I talk today, it is even less than 0.08% of total exhaust gas. Then going to the next slide is about measuring the emission. So we can see that, okay, there is a 200cc motorcycle and there is a 1000cc car, so or a 1 liter car. So both, let's say, are emitting 3% of CO. But if we talk about a car, it is a 4-cylinder, at least 4-cylinder, 8-cylinder, we don't know. Mostly it is 4. And two-wheeler is maybe 1 or maximum 2 cylinder engine. So there the amount of CO in grams is less, much less, whereas the amount of CO in grams is, let's say, 4 times higher, 5 times higher, or sometimes 10 times higher compared to the two-wheelers. So both can emit 3%, but if you want to measure the absolute, then we have to measure in grams per minute or grams per kilometer. is the right thing. So let's say, how do we measure it? So we have seen PUC test. Almost everyone has done a PUC test. So normally they put a probe into the exhaust system, and mostly it measures the percentage. But if any vehicle has to be passed, or let's say has to come to the road, it has to go through a certification, and for that there has to be a standard. And the standard uh, is combining this test setup. So we have to go to test agency, and there are several test agencies in India like ARAI, ICAT, VRD, etc., etc. And then all these test agencies measure the emission tests on a roller test bench. So like vehicle is parked here. It is what we call, it is fixed at one end, and then there is the wheel, whichever is moving. So sometimes front wheel or rear wheel, or sometimes both, is fixed on a roller dynamometer. And then there is an exhaust gas coming out of it, which is collected to a CVS system. It is called a constant volume sampler system, and then it goes to exhaust analyzer, and then we get to see this CO, HCA, NOx, and PM in percentage as well as in absolute mass. So we have these two photos, one vehicle which is running on a roller test bench, and there is a two-wheeler also running on a roller test bench, and then you can see there is a pipe connected to the exhaust. So this is how the testing is done, and the measurement. After the measurement, we see the results in grams, how many grams it has emitted during the entire running of that vehicle. So to get to the little detail, so there has to be a cycle on which the vehicle has to run. So in this case, we have the cycle which is called NADC, where the vehicle runs on a cycle where it is like, it starts from 0, then goes to 20 kilometers per hour, then again 0, and then about 30 kilometers, and then 50, and then it is repeating itself for 4 times, and after that it goes to higher velocity. So there are some cycles like NADC, WLTC. Then this cycle is actually applicable for Europe. This is for India. This is for USA. And yeah, so this both are for Europe, and this is for India. This is modified Indian driving cycle, we call it, where this almost looks like this, which has the last phase, which is cut from 90, from 120 to 90, and this is how it is run. So when the vehicle runs on this cycle all the time, we can see there is a standard emission coming out of it, and that we see as a emission, and we can see the numbers in the next slide. So I hope the slide is changed and you are seeing my screen. So this slide is emission norms comparison in India since 1991 to 2020. So earlier in 1991 there was no regulation, and this is commercial vehicle, then cars, and gasoline cars as well as diesel cars. So this was the emissions in 1991, and then government has given some mandated some reduction in the emissions. They have started with the fleets, means some controlled number of vehicles which we can monitor and measure, and afterwards we have a nationwide rollout of BS1 in 1999 and or 2000. So in this year, actually India started controlling the emission as an entire country, and you can see the amount of emission which is being reduced. And from 2020 to 2017, we have seen there is some delay for BS4 implication. So it has started in 2010 in 4 cities, then it went to 11 cities, then 50 cities, and in 2017 it has become nationwide. And in 2020, in April, since April, we are seeing BS6 vehicle, or whenever we go to market after April, uh, we will see only BS6 vehicles which are coming. And you can see the amount of exhaust gas which is reduced from the 1991, let's say, benchmark. So from 35 grams per kilowatt hour to 2.7. So it has reduced to drastic amount, maybe about 85% has been reduced. Oh, no, sorry, 94.2% in reduction in commercial vehicle, and 92.9 for gasoline cars, and 96.5 reduction in BS6. So this is compared to the 1991 values. And this is how government is, still working on it. And in 2023, 2025, we will have the new regulations which are even stricter than this BS6 currently, which is there. Uh, so I know that you will be having several questions right now. In the interest of time, we will take those questions at the later stage. You can put those questions in chat window, so that maybe Kuldeep can, or Yagnesh can read this at the end of the session, and then I can answer one by one. So uh, coming to the next slide. So this was the Indian scenario, and right now, if we see the worldwide scenario, so uh, this colored part is the where the whereas there are stricter emission legislations which are there. And so in California, in US, Europe, Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Brazil. So there are different type of emission norms which are there, but they are more or less same in terms of numbers as well as the technology which are being used to reduce those emissions. So this is how it is, uh, given worldwide. So now we have seen this exhaust emission coming out of the vehicle, and we have seen how do we measure it, why do we measure it, and so on. Now, how to reduce them. So this is where the catalytic converter comes. So it's kind of a small component underneath your vehicle. So at the bottom, there is a pipe, and there is a thing called a dabba. And I went to I think sometimes in Mumbai, I just saw a Tata truck, and I went to its workshop. So they used to call this catalyst housing as a dolki. So people give it various names in their own languages. So it is called dolki catalyst in our term, and some people call it dabba. People call it very specific names like three-way catalyst or diesel oxidation catalyst, particulate matter, and so on. So we will go into detail with one by one, but mostly it is called catalytic converter, accepted term all overall in India as well as worldwide. So if we talk about the catalyst process, so how it works actually. So we can say we have to have the reaction energy in order to start the uh, let's say emission catalyzing process. If I give an example, let's say there has to be a girl and there has to be a boy, but they cannot get married unless there is a pujari. So he is the catalyst, we call it, and that pujari marries them, and then they are married. So for them, there is a fees. So if without pujari, if we do, there are resistance, and if the pujari performs the ritual, there are less resistance. So this is reaction energy, we call it. So if a CO, a carbon monoxide, wants to convert to carbon dioxide with the addition of oxygen, we have the energy which is required to convert. And if there is no catalyst, so they can anyway get married. If we have a kilometer long pipe, so if I have an engine and 1 kilometer long exhaust pipe, then CO will get converted automatically to the CO2, and then it will come out as a CO2 which is converted. But we never have this kind of a long 1 kilometer pipe, so we have to short this process, and then the catalyst comes into picture. It's a chemical term, and which is actually to reduce this reaction energy. So normally if I want to make CO2 from CO plus O2, the temperature required is above 500 degrees Celsius. If I use the catalyst, that same energy is reduced to 200 degrees Celsius, or sometimes even lesser. Nowadays, the catalyst starts reaction at 150 degrees Celsius temperature. We can see another example. So it's like these are the frogs which wants to jump from this pond to the other pond, which is less. So which is, and finally it goes to a less energy. So CO2 is more stable than CO in terms of energy, internal energy of the molecule. So if we have the higher wall, we have only 1 or 2 frogs which can jump a higher wall. But if we reduce that wall size or enzyme with catalyst, more and more frogs can jump in to the other pond. And there is another way to show how the catalyst works, and it is called catalyst light off. Means without reaction energy. So let's say if the gas is passing from the catalyst at 100 degrees Celsius, catalyst will not convert that gas to the required let's say reaction. So it's kind of a slipping Coombe current. So when the catalyst is slipping, so that reaction energy is not met, and we are somewhere here at this stage, Coombe current is still slipping. So it's a CO and HC can push the catalyst. Okay, and then it wakes up, and then it eats away all this CO and HC. It's just on a lighter note. So this is how the catalyst works. So until it is slipping, until we provide the right amount of reaction energy, we will not get the right amount of reaction to converting into the non-harmful gases. So I hope you understood this process of catalyst and how the catalyst works. So you can imagine Coombe current or this frog example, and you can easily remember this plot after that. Coming to the next point about the construction and manufacturing process. So I heard that there is another lecture specifically talking on the coating process of the catalyst. So I would not go into detail, but I would give a little introduction. So first, there is a substrate. It's kind of a brick, which can be made of metal or ceramic, and it is called made of honeycombs. Means it is kind of a net, and which is elongated. So example, if I want to give why it is given, why do we have these honeycomb structures in catalyst? So if somebody asks, why do I have to use catalyst? I would put a coating, or let's say this catalyst, in the entire wall of the exhaust gas, exhaust pipe. Can't I reduce the emissions? Yes, the answer is yes. Definitely you can reduce, but not to a desired amount, because the surface area which is required to convert the gas, this would be limited. And the reason behind that is, the entire gas has to come into contact with the surfaces. If it doesn't come, then it would go as it has to have this higher activation energy, and with this higher activation energy, it will not convert. So every gas has to come to this stage, every molecule of that, or let's say almost all the molecules of the gas. And for that, we have to use this honeycomb structure. And afterwards, I would give another example. After that, there is a coating on the wall. So you can see this small cell. It is just enlarged here. Here, the square cell or sinusoidal cell. And in this, there is a coating. And from this white space, the gas will pass. And this is called the catalyst coating. And then there is a canning, means after that, that brick will be, combined with the exhaust system. And then finally, we have the assembly on its on the vehicle as a catalytic converter. So many people ask, why do we need such kind of complex things to start? So I would give an example. So if we put the gas through the exhaust pipe, the total surface area which is there would be around uh, half meter square, 0.5 meter square. If we put the directly gas, there is no catalyst. If we have a catalyst which is not coated, so only substrate, so that area would be around half the size of a small room, 10 by, so let's say 5 feet square area. So if we open this surface area of this catalyst, it would be around 5 feet square. But if we put coating inside, what coating does is it changes its surface area to the in terms of let's say 100, not 100%, but 1000% or maybe 10,000%. So if I take 1 liter catalyst, so the volume, let's say for the substrate is 1 liter, the the space which is created after coating is about the size of a cricket ground, the entire cricket ground. So that much amount of surface which is required for that exhaust gas to convert into the non-harmful gases. And that cricket ground surface is let's say put in a small box and which is fitted under the vehicle as a assembly. So this is why you can see this technology is very let's say high tech, and there are very few people who can actually do or make this kind of substrates, coating and canning on a vehicle. And this is a very specialized process. So if we see talk about the substrates, we can see metal, it looks like this, and ceramic, it looks like these square cells most of the time. So if we cut, we can see the gas pass through one channel like this, and the photos looks like this. So this is typical size for a four-wheeler, and this is a typical size for a two-wheeler. These are very small catalyst, which fits in 150 or 200 cc vehicles. So this is the size, around 40 mm diameter and about 100 mm length. So very small ones. You can fit it in these small hands. So that's the let's say the size which is used in two-wheelers. And there can be metal and ceramic, and the ceramic material is called Cordierite. This is a trade name from a company called Corning. And there is a Metallit, which is a company trade name from the company called Emitech, where I used to work. So these are the substrate. This is how they look. Then how substrate extrusion is done by like this. So there is a kind of a small machine where it makes kind of a dough, or let's say roti atta. Yeah. And then that dough is pressed through this small area, and then it is extruded like this, and then it is cut, and then it has to go to oven for hardening. So something similar to, you know, the potter making a pot, or kumvar making you know, drinking water matka. It is a similar process, and it is also made of ceramic. So this is how the substrate is manufactured for a ceramic substrate. The coating is done on this surface. It's a very specific topic. I think this coating process is scheduled to be, you know, uh, I think on next in coming 1 or 2 days by another lecturer. So that is also very interesting session you can attend. So coming to this our topic, so coating is you know, it creates this kind of you know, uneven surfaces on this small surfaces, and this is how it is increasing its area 10 times higher, or let's say 1,000 times 1,000% compared to the surface area of the catalyst. And here we have the catalytic particles, platinum, palladium, and so on. So after that, it has to be canned. So it has to be that substrate has to be, you know, fitted in the kind of a metal box from which, you know, the exhaust gas can come in here, and then it can go out as a it's like this. This is a ceramic substrate can, and this is a metallic substrate can. So this is how they look if we, you know, cut that part and have a close look in your hand. So coming to the types of catalyst in automobile, we have diesel engine catalyst and gasoline engine catalyst. So we can see if we compare them, so diesel has very high number of, you know, catalyst and catalyst technologies, whereas gasoline is simpler, and there are reasons for that. We will talk about it in coming slides. So for diesel engine, we have DOC, which can reduce the COHC and so let's say carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and soluble organic factors that is actually particle matters. And DOC full form is diesel oxidation catalyst. So in the diesel engines, we put first a DOC, and after that we put a DPF or a PPF. So this is a filter which is similar filter to, you know, our water filter, which can, you know, reduce the emission of soot and PM. So that black color soot we have seen, which is called particulate matter emission, which we can see from the buses and trucks coming out of. And after that we have SCR, which is a selective catalytic reduction for NOx reduction. And there is another catalyst called NSC, NOx to earth catalyst. We will see them in detail in next slide. So hydrolysis, that is catalyst used to convert urea to ammonia, and then slip catalyst is ammonia to nitrogen, and so on. We will see them one by one. In gasoline engine, we have a three-way catalyst which can convert COHC and NOx simultaneously. Sometimes they use LNT, which is a lean NOx trap, and there is nowadays in India we will be using GPF or gasoline particle filter, which would reduce the particles coming out of the gasoline engine. So these are the types of catalyst in automobile which are currently being used. Now we will go through a specific topic of gasoline engine emissions, and then we will go through the diesel engine emissions. So now go to the gasoline engine. Yeah. So just a moment. Yeah. So I hope this slide is visible, where we can see the three-way catalyst or three-way catcone reactions. So talking about this plot, where we have seen lambda 1. Lambda is nothing but the stoichiometric air fuel ratio, and in a gasoline engine it is 14.7:1. I think everybody has who has done this, the engine course would be definitely knowing these terms. This lambda 1 air fuel ratio 14.7 is to 1. So if we have the richer gas, or let's say richer lambda less than 1, we can see reduction atmosphere, and we can convert CO to CO2, NO to N2, and so on. And we have oxidation atmosphere, then we can oxidize CO with CO plus O2 is CO2, and H2 plus O2 H2O. So we can see this is a faster reaction, but there is a slower reaction for reduction atmosphere. But whenever vehicle goes to a rich phase, we can have this reduction atmosphere, and we can reduce the nitrogen NO part. So that we call nitrogen dioxide as well as nitrogen monoxide. Those can be reduced with CO and NO directly. This is how it is. Coming to the part where, sorry, the impact of the air fuel ratio on the engine emissions and catalyst efficiency. So we have seen this air fuel ratio as a target air fuel ratio for gasoline engines, and we can see the behavior, or let's say HC behavior, where it is like higher at the richer side, then it comes lower at the lambda 1 or air fuel ratio 14.7, and then again it is increasing because of the let's say very lean combustion. For CO, this plot is like this. It is very high at rich mixture, and then it drastically reduces, and it stays that way in leaner mixture of the exhaust. But the interesting part is NOx. It is lower at richer side. It is highest at the target, or let's say 14.7, and then it goes again back to the lower side when we operate in a leaner condition. So this is the best air fuel ratio range for catalyst to convert into rich mixture, and then this is the better or best economy scenario where we are running into the leaner part of the air fuel ratio map. So to I would not go into detail into this graph because this is similar to that, and we can talk about it later. So this is a catalytic converter efficiency. So this is the engine emissions without catalyst, and here we can see the catalyst, if we put a catalyst, how it performs under stoichiometric air fuel ratio. And so suppose we have a richer mixture, then we have lower carbon monoxide, higher hydrocarbons, or let's say lower hydrocarbons and higher the NOx. But then if we operate in the rich side, we have nitrogen oxide as less. Leaner side, nitrogen oxide as less, and then hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide at a little bit higher amount. Then talking about the diesel applications. So normally in gasoline applications, we can easily reduce the catalytic, let's say catalyst make catalyst functions. So that only normally in India currently only we can use a three-way catalyst. But in future there we will see the use of what we call particle filter for gasoline application. But that is the next step when we will see them in 2025 and so on. But for diesel, it is much more difficult to reduce the emissions because it requires very high technology and very good precise techniques to convert the exhaust gas for diesel application. We will see them one by one. So for diesel applications, we have the highest emissions from particle matter as well as NOx. Normally, it is kind of current emission where we can see some PM and some NOx, and we have current engines. So we can reduce and PF for NOx and PM. We have the ratio of like if we try to increase the PM in vehicle, we can reduce the NOx. So we must have heard the thing called EGR, which can reduce the NOx, but it will result into higher what we call higher amount of PM. And if we use the higher efficiency, so with the for at this uh, engine point, we have the highest fuel economy, very high fuel economy, but we have higher NOx, but PM is lesser. But we have to compromise, and then we have to put the engine settings into this range so that we can pass the emission norms. But in future, or let's say stringent emission norms, we can make this engine better, but it is still very far from this box where PM is less and NOx is also less. So we have to reduce in this. We have to put the emissions into this box. So we have to use either a system called SCR or a system called particulate filters or DPF, or both. So this is technology which we have to use to reduce PM as well as SCR as well as NOx. So these are the technologies that we will discuss into the next slides: particle filters and SCR. So if we talk about the soot particle composition, so we have seen the kala dhua or black smoke coming out of a vehicle. So what does it consist of? Mainly it is more than 50% is soot, which is a pure carbon C. But there are few other things which is called soluble organic fraction, which is actually a high number chain of the hydrocarbons. So for let's say gasoline, we have the main hydrocarbon as an octane, but the SOF is the mainly hexa octane or hexadecan kind of components, where this it's kind of a higher chain. So it is kind of in liquid format, but which is swimming in the air or exhaust gas, and it is called soluble organic fraction. And then we have sulfates, some metal hydrides, and these are the things coming from the fuel. Sometimes there is water also. So this is kind of an impurity into the diesel what we call in the diesel particle. We have some impurity like sulfates and water, and then we have these oils and additives. So sometimes there is oil which is burning. We have seen some white smoke coming out of vehicle. That is oil. That white smoke which we have seen, and that is mainly oil which is which is burning in the exhaust and not the exhaust fuel. So this is we can definitely make out of. So if there is a black soot coming, the higher number is soot, and then if it's the white smoke, it is mainly oil which is burned. So to reduce COSC and SOF, we have the diesel oxidation catalyst, and we have earlier used the term called DOC, which is this. So we have these reactions where CO, aldehyde, HC, this aromatic hydrocarbons SO2 and NO, which goes into the DOC and comes out as CO2, H2O, SO2 and NO. So this two will be treated further, and these two will go out because these two are non-harmful and more stable particles. So we can see the reactions here. HC plus O2 becomes CO2 plus H2O. The PAH is poly aromatic hydrocarbon, which will again combine to O2 and then again CO2 and H2O. So this is basically the oxidation of the exhaust gas, where the exhaust gas particle will be combined with oxygen and it will become CO2 and H2. So now we can have a question like, okay, so in diesel we have only oxidation catalyst, and in a gasoline we have a three-way catalyst which can do the oxidation as well as reduction. For let's say CONOHC is oxidized and NOx is reduced, but the diesel is not behaving like that. So the reason behind that is basically the oxygen content in diesel exhaust is higher. So normally the gasoline engine is working on a stoichiometric ratio, so there is almost very less or almost no oxygen which is present, and that's why we can reduce the nitrogen oxides to nitrogen and oxygen, N2 and O2. But in diesel we have in exhaust gas we are operating at a very lean combustion mode. So stoichiometry ratio or lambda, we can see it's more than 1.5 or sometimes higher than 2 lambda. And gasoline operates at between 0.9 to 1.2 lambda, but diesel is operating at much higher lambda. And this is the reason why we cannot reduce the nitrogen or N2 or NO into from this DOC. And we can see NO is going like this and coming as like same. We cannot convert it. So for this NO particle or NO2, we have to have another technology, and that we will see later in the next slides. So talking about the particle emissions from the diesel, we can see there is a kind of a filter which is used in which we have similar honeycomb, but there is this one small difference in a channel when it is open from one side, but it is closed from another. So let's say when it is open like this here, but then it is closed, this green color door which is closed. So it has to go through this surface, and then that filtering surface, it will go as a filtered particle. So and the particles which are there, which will be gathered here on this surface. If we talk about the there is another technology called partial flow filter, which here we have fully closed channel, and here we have partially closed channel. So let's say about a 90% gate is closed, only 10% is open. So most of the gas passes through the surface, and some of the gas can come through without being treated. So this what when to use what is depending upon how much reduction in particle emission we require. There are disadvantages of this DPF because it's kind of it would choke the engine. So if I put a DPF, I can expect about 3 to 5% power reduction in total. So let's say my car is 100 horsepower. So after fitting a DPF, it will go to 95 or sometimes even lesser. So this is why a DPF is power killer, uh, but it is very efficient in reducing the particle matters. Whereas the partial flow filter, which will reduce the emission, so it will reduce not everything, but some particle will come out, but it is mostly going to reduce about 70 to 80% efficiency. So depending upon the application and choice, we can use either of them. This would be helpful to reduce the particle emissions for diesel engines. And now coming to the part where we have seen that we cannot treat NOx. NOx is or NO is coming directly out as NO. So what to do with that? that we will see here. So that is actually a complex process again, and that complex process is called SCR, or selective catalytic reduction, we call it, in which there is a kind of an extra part which is added, and that is called urea. So whatever that urea white color powder which we are using as a fertilizer, the similar urea but which is more pure and it is dissolved into water, that that thing is filled in the tank, and it's that like that urea mixture into water, it is called AdBlue, or let's say diesel emission fluid, diesel exhaust fluid, sorry, DEF. So these are the two trade names for this part, this urea water solution. This water solution is injected in the pipe. Then that urea will convert from urea to what we call uh, ammonia, and that ammonia will reduce the nitrogen. So we have these reactions. So I would go one by one the reactions. If I will start, I mean, I will go through it very fast. But if you have any questions, we can always go through this slide another time. But this reaction process is fairly known worldwide and easily available on internet if we start looking. And we can, if we see SCR reaction process as a Google search, we can easily find out about this reactions phenomena. So the first formation of NO2 from NO, which is formed in oxidation catalyst. So nitrogen oxide is oxidized in a DOC, but this is not we require as an exhaust gas. NO2 is again harmful. It also creates the acid rain and so on. So to treat that NO2 again, we have to do this. We have to put this urea tank and dosing pump. So where the fuel will, this ammonia or AdBlue will be sprinkled inside exhaust, and then there are reaction happening. And this is the let's say urea molecule, NH2CO, NH2 twice CO, and plus 7H2O. This is water solution. And then it will convert to NH2CO, NH2 twice CO, plus 7H2O. So the water will be separated. It is called water evaporation. And then this NH2 twice CO, or this urea, will be again converted to thermolysis. So this is the isocyanuric acid plus NH3. And this again isocyanuric acid plus H2O will make CO2 and NH3. So every one molecule of urea would make about 2 molecules of ammonia. And this ammonia we will use to convert the NOx. So you can see 4NO plus O2 plus NH3. So this ammonia will, catch this oxygen from NOx, and then it will become N2 and H2O. This is the desired thing. So this is how we can control that NO or nitrogen oxides part of the exhaust from diesel engine. And it is very tricky, and there are many systems which are being tested and used in the automotive applications. And fortunately, I am working on this kind of platforms where there are urea, injection, and then we have to increase the efficiency of this catalyst and so on. And then finally, we have to do this ammonia cleanup. So whatever ammonia left during this reaction coming out, we cannot let it escape as it is. So we have to convert that ammonia to with O2, and then that will be N2 and 6H2O. So ammonia is also kind of a pollutant. We can smell it. It's a very bad smell. you know, the smell coming out of rotten onions or rotten eggs. That is the ammonia, and that is very foul smell. So, if we cannot treat ammonia, then the vehicle would smell very bad on the road. So if we are, sitting on a traffic jam, that would be anyway, you cannot breathe that air. So this is how it is converted. It is called SCR reaction. And we can see the system, how it looks. So there is an engine. There is a diesel oxidation catalyst. Then we have a urea injection from a tank. This is a tank. So similar to a fuel tank, we will have another tank in the vehicle, which with a dosing system in urea. Then it will inject that urea into this particular here on this exhaust pipe. After that, it will get converted to ammonia. Then we will have the particle filter and this SCR catalyst. So this is where the reaction for NOx will happen. So this is how the entire exhaust particle, what we call emissions from a diesel engine is treated. So this is the overview of the diesel engine, catalyst and exhaust systems. We will talk about then the very interesting part, which is the BS6 and Euro 6 trends. So what are people currently doing? So we can see the, let's say, state of the art technologies which are you know offered by the OEMs, engine, what we call vehicle OEMs like Tata, Maruti, Mercedes, and so on. So we will see some of the exhaust vehicle system, how it looks like. So this is the SCR integrated system with an engine in the DPF in the Volkswagen, an Audi 2-liter engine. So we can see there are a lot of sensors, many sensors. So temperature sensors, lambda sensors, NOx sensor, pressure sensor, oxidation sensor. So, and the catalyst which are like fitted here. So this is a engine turbocharger. Then we have this DOC, diesel oxidation catalyst. Then we have the urea injection here at this location. So gas comes out of turbocharger, comes here, then goes through this pipe. Here we have the addition of urea. Then we have this diesel particle filter, which is coated with SCR coating. So this is actually SDPF. It's taking a charge of S both. It will also convert the N2, also a NOx, and it will also reduce the particle emissions at the same location. So it is called SDPF. So this is how the Audi 2-liter engine or Volkswagen 2-liter engine exhaust system looks like. See, we have seen the earlier exhaust system which was mentioned here, like this. We have an entire system in line where first we have this, and then there is a long pipe. Then again there is a pipe where there is a dabba where this small catalysts are fitted. Again there is a long pipe and so on. But now people are making this entire exhaust system as modular, where the entire system is fitted just behind the engine, and then the entire exhaust system is treated here, and then only the non-harmful gases coming out of it will be put in the exhaust pipe under the floor. So the trend currently right now is to reduce the emission by making this catalyst near to the engine. Why do we have to put them near? Because in order to get the maximum advantage of the temperature, we have seen this activation energy graphs. So we want to reach the highest temperature at faster rate. And if we are away from the engine, the temperature uh, required for the reaction energy will be less, and we will have less conversion. So in order to achieve the highest conversion, uh, In order to achieve the highest conversion, we have to reduce the length from engine, and this is why everybody is fitting their exhaust system behind the engine nowadays. So yeah, this is the Audi 2-liter engine exhaust system. This is the Volvo example. So how this is how the Volvo is fitting their exhaust system. So we have an engine. Then we have the exhaust gas coming out of it. Here, this is a DOC. Then gas comes out like this, like annularly. How do I say? This is kind of a ring kind of thing, donut shape. So inside that donut, we have the catalyst. Outside is free, and the gas comes out, and then again diverted to the this part, and then how we are getting the exhaust gas here. So for the gasoline engine, this part is again this is the DOC, and this is the GPF, or let's say gasoline particle filter. In terms of diesel engine, we have same. Here we have sorry, three-way catalyst for gasoline and particle filter, and then for diesel we have a DOC, and then here we have SDPF, and there will be urea injection somewhere here at this location. So we can see gasoline Euro 6. This is Sulev 30. This is USA application, and this is a diesel Euro 6. This is a European application, as well as V40 in India, which has similar Volvo car V40. This has similar exhaust system, which is kept here. Just give me a second. Yes, sorry for the little interruption. Uh, where were we? So we were for Volvo. We have this similar modular exhaust gas uh, reduction this exhaust system, which is fitted very near to the engine and very small. You can see earlier in trucks very big catalyst, but nowadays very small. And why small? There is a reason behind that. That activation energy plot we can remember. We can reduce the catalyst size if we can convert with a smaller volume. So if if we are putting this catalyst away from the engine, we have to use the bigger size and higher number of catalyst substrates and coating. But if we go very close to engine, so this is just coming out of engine, and exhaust gas is converted, and this is why we can use very small catalyst and a compact one and modular one. So this is how the Volvo engine is used. Now, if we talk about a Mercedes OM654 diesel engine, we have the uh, engine fitted like this. So earlier version of this engine, where we were earlier, so before, this is the new generation, and this is the old generation, where this is the traditional exhaust system. So this is the old engine, where after turbocharger we have a DOC, diesel oxidation catalyst, where we have a DPF. Then we can have an AdBlue injection here, or that urea injection, which we talked about in SCR. And here we have SCR catalyst box. This entire thing is shrinked and kept behind the engine, and it now looks like this. So we have a DOC, then we have the AdBlue injection here, then there is a mixing happening of that AdBlue with the exhaust gas here in this chamber. So from here, gas comes from to DOC, then goes through it, converts the HC and CO part, goes to SDPF. It's again dual functionality catalyst, where it can reduce particle emission as well as reduce the NOx. So this is SDPF or SCR coated DPF, and then we have a specific SCR catalyst, which is here. So this is how a Mercedes OM654 a diesel engine in India and as well as worldwide making the exhaust system nowadays. So this is about it. So now I wanted to make a small twist, and there is a small study or statement that I wanted to make. uh, there was a statement of CEO of JLR, Jaguar and Land Rover, Ralph Seth. He said the new BS6 car is much cleaner than the Delhi Air. So at that time, I remember there was uh, there was a discussion of odd even, and there were diesel ban on vehicles which was observed on from Delhi. So people could not book a diesel car from the Delhi uh, outlet of any vehicle manufacturer. Uh, that ban was actually lifted after there was a plan made by government and so on. But at that time, it was like people were really breathing very very bad air, and you can see the photo here. It's really, I have been to Delhi during this time, and I could not imagine how we can live in such kind of environment every day, where there are two wheelers and people can we are which are who are breathing unfiltered air, and this goes to their lung, and it's very bad for their health. But uh, uh, the CEO of JLR, he said that BS6 emission from an exhaust car from car, which is cleaner than Delhi air. And if we compare the Delhi air, and if we compare this PM10, which is mainly responsible for this smoggy environment, he was right. So if we talk about the numbers, around 500 micrograms per meter cube, Delhi air, uh, you know, where it is the worst, if we can say, affected time, which is after Diwali time. So it is just nearby, and we will soon hear the Delhi pollution, which will, go jump sky. I mean, jump rocket and to the sky, and we will definitely see the headlines in coming days. So every time after Diwali, this thing happens. I'm sorry, I have to pause for a second. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Hello, I'm back. So, is my slide visible?
No.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, so then I will start. All right. So if we compare the PM emissions in Delhi air direct, if we breathe that, it is about 500 milligrams or micrograms per meter cube of PM10, which will cause this kind of smog. And BS6 car emission PM10 emission is about 400 micrograms per meter cube. So these are, this is not exactly the number. They are rounded off, and there were some assumptions which were there in this study. Average airflow rate of a car about 100 kg per hour. Average speed in Bangalore, Delhi is assumed same, around 17.6 kilometer per hour. Then BS6 emission maximum limit for passenger cars is 4,500 micrograms per kilometer, and considering average of 3,000 micrograms per kilometer for PM10 emission. So, uh, so these are the facts. So Delhi Air Quality Index PM10 went maximum at 999 micrograms, and average during the November to January period, it is about 500 micrograms per meter cube. This is from Wikipedia. So this is a study which was there. So he was partially right, but I wanted to, put a caution mark. This comparison are done only for fun. The exhaust emission topic is very serious, and so don't take above headline literally. As other toxic emissions, we cannot only talk about PM, but other toxic emissions from car like NOx, CO, and CO2 are much higher than the ambient air of Delhi, even in Delhi. So don't try to breathe this car emission directly as direct. So I would end my presentation with this. I took about almost 1 hour 25 minutes, and we can now have a discussions for if any further questions if you have already given to Kuldeep and so on. So I'm open to the discussions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dushyant. So, participant, do you have any query to ask? You can ask directly, or you can drop your query in the chat box. No queries?
So today, how much is the participation, Kuldeep?
20, 25, 25.
Okay. Okay. It's a good number. Yeah.
So if there is no query, no questions to ask, then I conclude the session. So thank you very much, Mr. Dushyant, for sparing your valuable time in this STTP. I hope your session, your topics in this session would really give a benefit who is working for the exhaust after treatments. Even me as well. I am also working for the uh, preparation of catalytic converter for the different using different mechanism, different concepts. So, as far as the exhaust emission is concerned, I would rather say this area is really wide for the research. Still, there are scope to minimize the rate of reaction, rate of emission as far as the number is concerned and as far as the climatic change is concerned. So this, no doubt, there are greener technologies, but greener technologies will be there after the end of non-availability of fossil fuels. So we are having time to utilize the some concept related to the emission technologies to reduce or to minimize their rate. So, fantastic session. Even I learned lot many things from your presentation, Dushyant. Uh,
Thank you.
so, on behalf of Automobile Engineering Department, ADIT, I offer sincere gratitude for sparing your valuable time and just arranging the things for the learners on the topic of automotive exhaust and exhaust treatment. Thank you very much, Lucien. If you have anything to tell, you can again.
So I just would like to thank the participants, especially Kuldeep and Yagnesh, for providing this platform to reach out to all of you from where I'm sitting from Pune, and you are sitting at various locations, and this is the platform where we can have discussions. So yes, you can reach out to me. Kuldeep can give you my contact details. You can reach to Kuldeep, and I'm proud to be ADITN, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lucien. Whenever we are calling you for any program, any session, any technical speech, you are available round the clock. Okay. So this is the pleasure from our side, and we are really very much thankful for your contribution at Automobile Engineering Department, ADIT. Thank you again. So
Thank you.
shall we end the session?
Yep.
Okay.